Hi, I'm Scott Gardner, and I'm going to talk about my kidney disease story. I'm coming from an undisclosed location where there's trees, as you can tell. Hopefully, this will motivate somebody to fight. Hopefully, this will motivate somebody or help somebody to deal with anything they are going through. Now, me being a little bit of a storyteller, let's rewind the story back to July of 2018. I was feeling sick. I was feeling bad. I did not know what was wrong with me at the time, and I was also experiencing high blood pressure. But all of a sudden, as weeks went by in July, I started to swell up. My legs got swollen, my feet got swollen, my torso got swollen. I started to puff up like a sponge. So it was the weekend of, I think, the 21st that I took my daughter out to Chicago for, a little getaway trip. And it was that Sunday night that I couldn't sleep. But in weeks before that, I couldn't sleep either. Like, I would spend most of my nights tossing and turning, and then spend days during my lunch break asleep in my car, like for an hour and a half, because I was not getting any sleep at all because I was uncomfortable. And I didn't know why. Now, fast forward back to the trip. The Sunday night before I left, I told my daughter, said, hey, I'm going to the hospital because I think there's something wrong and I think it's serious. And she turned and asked me, like, well, why didn't you cancel a trip? I said, because this trip meant more to me than anything else. No matter what I was going through, I was going to make sure that I made this trip for her and me, because it was, daddy-daughter stuff, or daddy-daughter time. So I came back and worked on Monday, worked Tuesday, and then that Tuesday night, after I got out of work, I couldn't take it anymore. And I have a feeling if I didn't go then, I wouldn't be making this video for y'all now. So I went in, I got diagnosed, I got taken into the emergency room, and then got taken to ICU. Found out that my kidneys shut down, and the reason I was swelling up is because I was retaining water, and it had no place to go outside of everywhere else in my body except out. I was 223 pounds, I was uncomfortable, and I was scared. And I was alone. Not in the fact of friends or family or what have you, but just for once in my life, I questioned my mortality and had to deal with it one-on-one. I was worried, I was scared, and I know I gave y'all update videos on it, but when I was alone, I was frightened. And I'm not ashamed to admit that. So started the process of me going on dialysis, which for a first timer wasn't that fun. I had a graft in my shoulder that was connected to my jugular vein, so if you see me out and about, I at least showed it to you, which they had to drain most of the water and clean my blood at the same time for that first week. I went from 223 pounds, because I got out of there in about a week, to 163 pounds. So let's say roughly about 70 pounds of fluid drained off of me, which then began the process of me rehabbing and me struggling and me fighting and me wondering, like, what happens next. Then after a few months, we had a fistula did, which was in my arm, which is in my left arm now, and graft in my shoulder taken out. Those were the hardest 3 months of my life, not gonna lie. There are times I could barely make it from my kitchen to my living room, and vice versa. I was walking around hunched over, and it's just pain. And just being really tired, and I mean like really tired. And then to have to do that 3 days a week and go back and forth and across town and drive and be just exhausted. And there's people and friends I've hung out with, at the time I wasn't up to par, but I didn't want to let them down, and I wanted to, at least push myself a little bit and not let anybody down. I wasn't at my best, but in my mind I still had to fight. So thanks to a lot of people who came around, helped me out, kept me in good spirits, a lot of messages I got, and a lot of positive vibes, because that helps. So it's been 3 days a week, 4 hours each day, going in and doing this, and now here we are a year and 4 months later, and I've made a lot of progress. I'm back to a lot of the normal things that I could do, like me walking to my mailbox. Hell, me walking around my house was a struggle. Now I can push out 3.5, 4 miles probably in a day. 7 miles if you want to go back and forth. I'm back to feeling better and doing a lot better. My next step now is getting on the transplant list, which, yes, everybody, I know, I don't just jump on the list, but at the same time, I have testing I got to do. I got to first do some dental testing, etc., etc. I'm also working on now doing this at home, which would be easier for me, so I can sit in the comfort of my own home and do dialysis now, which is 4 days a week for about 3 hours instead of 3 days a week for about 4 hours, which makes it easier for me, which is a cooler deal. I feel a lot healthier. I feel 10 years younger, like I need to be. But one thing I've learned through all this is fight. You gotta fight. A great quote that I once heard was, fight. And fight till you can't fight anymore. And when you get tired, have someone fight for you. Now, I'm not a fighter of a boxer or a, combat sport nature, but I'm a fighter in life. Those who've known me when I had hair, those who know me know my story. My parents both died before I hit 18, before I hit 14, really. So that was a fight. I've lost friends. I lost people I've loved. But I'm still here, and I've fought. And I fight for people who believe. I fight for my 3 daughters. I fight for my fat ass grandson. And yes, I called him my fat ass grandson. If you haven't met my boy AJ, he's a fat boy. I don't care what anybody says, he's a fat boy. But I've learned how to fight. And the saying is, I know if I can do it, you can do it, but you can do it. If not for anybody, do it for yourself. Fight for you. Fight for you believing in yourself. Because there's no greater fighter than yourself. I still have a long road to go. I still have a lot to get accomplished. I still got a lot of birthday shout-outs to do, side note. But I want to let y'all know what was going on. I want to let you know how I feel. I don't need no therapists. I don't need no psychiatrist. I talk to y'all. I give a raw and cut video because, probably would fudge my answers otherwise. But I wanted to let y'all know this. I'm still going to be here fighting. I don't have a choice. That's what I do. I knocked the camera. Peace, love, and soul. Scotto.